Hi, folks. Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Good morning, Saturday, 9 a.m. And I know that it is early um, here on the East Coast. And if you are, you know, on the West Coast or international, I know that it could be really early, but this is the time that's working for me right now. Today, we are going to look at an exciting product, one that I've been looking forward to reviewing for a while, and that is the Apos Audio Community Rock Lobster. And we will wait for a few more people to join us live, and then we will go ahead and get started with the review. So again, I want to thank everybody for watching today, and it is a November the 15th. The year goes by fast for sure. So hopefully everybody can hear me today, and we will go ahead and wait it out here briefly for a few more viewers. So if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up in the chat and we'll get started with the review. Thumbs up, please. If you can hear me, everything. We had some issues last time, so I just want to make sure that the live stream is starting on the right foot before we get started. So if you could, please acknowledge that you can hear me and that I'm not just talking to myself again. Test, test, 1, 2, test, test. Anybody there? Hello? Can you hear me now? A simple Y or N or a thumbs up or a thumbs down will give me the go ahead to start the review. So if you could, there we go. All right. Sounds good. Test, test, test. All right. Perfect. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with the review, and we'll get this show on the road. Hi, folks. Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Apos Audio X Community Rock Lobster, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Apos Audio for providing the Rock Lobster for review. To greatly appreciate it. Apos Audio, you rock. All right, so the Apos Audio Community Rock Lobster. This will set you back $60 from your bank account. It has a 10 millimeter liquid crystal polymer or LCP driver, 32 ohms of impedance, and 105 decibels of sensitivity, a frequency response range of 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. The Rock Lobster comes in a small little box, and it's a very playful cover. I appreciate this. This is something you don't see that often in IEMs, is something playful and that's tasteful. And I just like that it, has a little character on it. It says Rock Lobster, and it says that it's in-ear monitors tuned for metal, rock, indie, and punk. And then it has some specs on the back. Plus, it's bright red. Taking off the sleeve, you're greeted by a little cover that holds everything underneath, and it just has a bunch of other things listed, which, again, it's just a playful little thing that Apos has done just to kind of play along with the theme of Rock Lobster. And then you have just a plain box with a couple of accessories. Those accessories are very, very limited. You do get, again, another little playful little piece of paper that just tells you how to use your Rock Lobsters. And it's just a nice little touch by Apos. And you get a bag of small, medium, and large tips, and that's it. They don't include a whole lot. And for $60, I don't have an issue with that. I do wish that they had included a few more tips. The tips that they do include are these kind of shallow, wide bore silicone tips, and For me, these tips didn't work very well. They just didn't hold the Red Lobster very well in my ears. And even though I could use them, I just found that they just weren't sealing real well. And I wasn't getting quite comfort that I was looking for either. And so I had to use a different tip. I preferred using the Final Audio Type E tip. I found that the tip just was longer and just fit my ear better and was more comfortable. And so all sound impressions are being done using the Final Type E tip. All right, so the Rock Lobster. I like them. They're a unique look, and they're nice and lightweight, bright red, which you don't normally see in an IEM. And then they have this kind of lobster scale on the side, which kind of looks cool, like a shell. I like the look of them. They're a little bit on the chunky side. They do have a big wing and a decent size nozzle and length. It's not the longest of nozzles, but it is fairly long. And sticking those Final Type E tips on, they do extend a little bit nicer. Very lightweight. You can kind of see in and see the drivers and all that that's going on the inside. A little bit of branding on the shell as well. Overall, I like the look of them, the feel of them. Just kind of cool. Something a little bit different. All right, the cable. It's an okay cable for $60. The ear hooks have enough tension. I do wish that they were a little bit thicker and just had a little bit more tension just to hold things a little bit better. But that's a preference of mine. But connected with 2-pin, they're okay there. Then you have this nice little split with a cinch that doesn't even stay in place. So if you have a cinch that doesn't stay in place, why have a cinch? And then it terminates in a 3.5. You can also get it with 4.4. Small termination. It's not super huge, which is nice and appreciated. Overall, the cable is okay. It's a little bit on the thin side, but for a $60 IEM, I can live with it. Comfort. Sticking them in my ears, they fit me really, really well, especially with that Final Type E tip. They just kind of snug in place and disappear. I get pretty good isolation of outside noises, probably 55-60% of outside noises being blocked. I mean, they're not the best at isolating of outside noises, but they're pretty good at it. They're going to muffle most things, especially, vacuum cleaners, coffee grinders, that sort of stuff. Vehicles you could still hear passing by. Carrying on a conversation was a little difficult, pausing the music. And if the person talked loud enough and you're a good lip reader, you could carry on a conversation. For me, I'm a terrible lip reader, so I did have to pop one out to kind of carry on a conversation. But for the most part, they do a fairly decent job in that regard. Comfort, I could wear these for hours. I had no issues whatsoever just leaving them in my ears and listening, especially with the Final Type E tip. Using the stock tip, it was a little bit more about every half hour, 40 minutes or so. I had to really kind of wiggle it around and mess with the fit. But overall, I found that they were extremely comfortable and for hours on end, no problems whatsoever. So the Apos Audio Community Rock Lobster looks cool. Nice and bright colors, playful, nice design. Even if it is a little bit on the usual universal build, I mean, it's very well done. Nice wingtip, good nozzle length, and comfortable. Are they easy to drive? Being 32 ohms of impedance and 105 decibels of sensitivity, I had no problems whatsoever driving them. I found that pretty much anything will drive them, whether it was a dongle, a DAP, or desktop. The Apos Rock Lobsters are not fussy whatsoever. Everything was able to get them loud fairly easily. I did find that they scaled with other gear, a little bit better gear, not necessarily giving it more power, but just if it's a better quality product, the Rock Lobster sounded a little bit better. Duh, it should. So the Rock Lobster does a good job of revealing whatever the source it is being provided and paired with. I found that the Rock Lobster does have a tendency to prefer things that have a little bit on a warmer upper end, not like super warm, but something that has just a little bit of a kiss of a warm breeze up top. There were moments on some of my more analytical gear, like an SMSL DS20 and the Mytek Liberty Deck 2, in which some of the upper mid-range and lower treble regions were just a little bit on the verge of being too much, but they never crossed over that line for me. But for some that are more sensitive in those areas, especially like 4K, 8K, it could be just a little bit too much at times on certain gear. So if you have something that has a little bit of a warmer presentation up top, I found that the Rock Lobster was a little bit more content and pleasurable in that regard. I found that if you had something that was really a little bit warm and thick on the bottom end, the Rock Lobster, depending on how your preference is when it comes to bass, could be very, very thumpy and bloaty and fun sounding, or it could be a little bit on the muddy side of things. So it kind of depends on your preference for bass. You may like it on a warmer, thicker, robust source, or you might like it on something a little bit more neutral. For me, I preferred it on something a little bit more neutral sounding. I found that on those warmer ones, it just was too sluggish and muddy and bloated. So it is a little bit on the picky side when it comes to presentation, but I didn't have any issues with any of the gear that is behind me, other than just a little bit of sparkliness up top every now and then. The Apos Audio Rock Lobster, how does it sound? So the Apos Audio Community Rock Lobster is tuned for rock music. And, you know, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I am not the biggest, most loyal rocker out there when it comes to content creators and reviewers. I have a preference of genres when it comes to jazz and classical music, especially progressive jazz and progressive classical music. And so rock music is, I enjoy it and I've listened to it, pretty much my whole life, but it's not my go-to when it comes to music. And so I went through my playlists and I listened and I really tried to pay attention more and listen to more rock genres. And I found that the Rock Lobster made my listening experience more pleasurable than normal when listening to rock tracks. I really enjoyed listening to the Rock Lobster. I found myself listening to more of my Metallica and AC/DC and Ozzy Osbourne's and Megadeth and Sabbath and all those kind of groups more than I normally do. And some of those are in my test tracks, but I just found that I was listening to them more frequently as I was testing the Rock Lobster. And then there were other things I was testing out as well. I'm not going to mention every single group that I listen to. If you want more detailed information when it comes to answering questions in the live stream, you could ask me specifically. But I found that there was a pleasureness and a kind of a wonder how this one sounded, when it came to the Rock Lobster. And normally I'm just kind of going through tracks and checking things. So with all that introduction and spoiler, let's get on with the actual sound presentation. So this is a bassy IEM, and it's not a like forthright, just here you go, here's your bass. It's a well-controlled, nicely detailed, and fun, engaging type of bass. It has good impact and nice texture. There is a little bit of a bleed from the upper bass that goes into the lower mids, adding a little bit of warmth and add a little bit of fullness to it. And at times that can be just a little bit much. And for me, who's more neutral preference leaned, it's a little unclean there. And at times on some music, it was a little too much. I do wish that it was tucked slightly, just to kind of clean that area up. But other times, it really added in a fun factor. So it kind of depended on the song, and the type of music. So also it kind of depended on the era of music. So I found that some of the older, more classic tracks, things from 90s backwards, sounded really good on the Rock Lobster, especially in that upper bass, lower mid range. It was not nearly as impacted. But when you got into the more modern stuff, 2000s and up, where they started to compress music and they really started to focus on some synthesizers and things like that, um, and some more electronic type of bass, and percussion, I noticed that it was more bloated, a little bit more sluggish, and a little bit more just not as clean in that area. So it kind of depends on the genres of in eras of the rock that you were listening to. But overall, I found that the bass was very, very engaging. I had multiple times of just being an air drummer. And then there was also just times of just me just listening to bass heavy tracks that I don't normally listen to, and really enjoying it. It reaches nicely into the sub bass. There's good presence there, rumble and grumble. It's not the most sub bassy type of IEM, but you definitely get some there. Then in the mid bass, it's nicely textured and it has a good thump to it, and it has a nice presence. It's not an overbearing mid bass, but at the same time, it definitely has a presence. You know it's there. And then in the upper bass, as mentioned, it's present. At times it can be a little too present, and then it has a nice tonality to it. There's good details and nice resolution. Overall, I found that the bass was very well controlled for the most part and sounded very natural and accurate. Going into the mids have a shine to them along with warmth. So there's enough of a sparkle and energy in the upper mid range. At times it could be a little too much for some, but for the most part, I found it to be very enjoyable. Slight forwardness and good engagement. There's nice air and presence. And I found that there's a little bit of warmth, especially in that lower mid range where it gets impacted by the bleed of the upper bass range. And there's just this fullness about it. And it brings out that kind of organic naturalism in the mids. Have a nice fullness to them. Vocalists have a kind of growl that you're looking for, and a little bit of a just a textured presentation. And I really enjoy the mids of the Apos Rock Lobster. I find that for rock tracks that I really don't listen to that often, I found that very engaging and fun to listen to, and I just kind of had this smile on my face when I was listening to them. Going into the treble is blissful. It's not the most crisp, bitey, and edgy, but it has this approach, and you can listen to it, and it's not fatiguing, but yet it has enough of the bite, edge, and crispness, engaging, but at the same time, it's also not the most forthright in its presentation, which is good because a lot of rock tracks can get a little bit uncomfortable, especially when it comes to that percussion soles and things like that can kind of get a little glassy, glary, and tinny. And on the Rock Lobster, they don't have that fatigue factor, which kind of smooths and softens that approach just a little bit, and those type of tracks a little bit more pleasurable to listen to, but they don't go over it. And so I find that the Rock Lobster, when it comes to the bass, the mids, and the treble, are very enjoyable. They just have this ability to put a smile on my face and help me to enjoy rock tracks that are usually either just kind of ho hum, or yeah, okay, I don't mind this song, to I enjoy this song. I really like this song with its natural mid range, and then it's fun and engaging. bass, and then with its good enough expressive but yet blissful treble. One thing that really took me by surprise was the soundstage of the Rock Lobster. I found that the Rock Lobster has a good amount of wideness. It does a decent job of showing you small, medium, large, but it gets into the grand size. You know, you get into listening to live stadium recordings, arena type of recordings, and things like that. And you can really hear things kind of being placed, and it spreads them out in a very natural way. I was rather surprised at that. The clarity and the abilities to kind of show off the stage were very good on the Rock Lobster. Clarity is something that doesn't always stand out when it comes to a IEM that's more focused for rock music, but on the Rock Lobster, there was good clarity, and it really helped to open up the stage and kind of reveal the small, the medium, the large, and the grand size widths of the Rock Lobster. Does a good job with its imaging. It's not the most precise and accurate, but you can definitely go, that's right there, and it's in this neighborhood, that's over here, and that's in this neighborhood, and it tracked things very well from side to side. Exiting and entering was also very clean and clear. You could definitely tell when things were moving. There was no abrupt disappearance or abrupt appearances, which is nice. There was no jittering or stuttering across the stage. Everything moved smoothly, and you could definitely place things as they moved across the stage. Depth was also very good. You could look into the stage fairly well. The only times that it got a little bit confused at times was when that upper bass and that lower mid range were kind of a little too full. Every now and then it get a little bit crowded there. But for the most part, it does a good job with its depth and layering. It was mostly controlled. Detail retrieval is pretty average for its price point. I never was hunting and pecking for a detail, but I was not really exploring new details either. They were all there when I expected them to be. Resolution is also average for the price. Again, this is a $60 IEM that does very well with, and it's very competent in its details and resolution. Tone and timbre is also very good. I found it to be very natural sounding, especially in the mid-range. I found that it did a good job of portraying the instruments and vocalists, and everything sounded very natural and correct. So I like the Apos Audio Rock Lobster. I think it's a very good IEM, and an IEM that I reviewed a while back that is also known for its rock genres and being focused in that regard is the QKZ X HBB Hades. Now, the Hades, I wasn't a huge fan of, and I'm still not. So comparing the Hades to the Rock Lobster absolutely destroys it, burns the pants off. The Hades is a muddy, bloated mess, and it has mids that are just sucked out, and it just has a very, very painful presentation that is not pleasant in the uppers. There are very few songs that I enjoy the Hades on, and it's just not a clean and clear presentation, and it's very bloated in the bass, has way too much impact, punch, slam. It's just a overbearing bass, and then the clarity is just lacking in the mids and in the treble. Soundstage is small, cramped, and it does not do a good job with layering or imaging. So if you are looking for a bassy IEM and you want clarity, some details and resolution, good impact, punch and slam without having it be a bloated mess, I would definitely get the Rock Lobster over the Hades. So overall, I enjoyed the Apos Audio Community Rock Lobster. It's an IEM that kind of teeters on the verge of being legendary. But it needs a little bit of garlic sauce, to take it to the next level. And I find that the slight lack of details and resolution and the often stuffy, bloated upper bass, lower mids, can be a little bit of a detriment to that. If that was cleaned up just a little bit, you got a little bit more sparkle and energy, and a little bit more clarity. I find that those small flaws they're holding back the Rock Lobster, but you clean those up, and it'll go from being exceptional to being legendary. And I find that the Apos Audio Rock Lobster is a very good first IEM attempt from Apos. This thing is really, really good. And it's also really, really good for being genre specific. So I recommend the Apos Audio Rock Lobster. Really, truly enjoy this. Little IEM is going back into that little case. It's going to be used as a reference when it comes to comparing to other bassy IEMs that I get in for review. All right, let's take a look at some questions and comments and see what you all think of the Apos Audio Rock Lobster. Any questions or comments? Okay, so it looks like everybody can hear me, which is good. Okay, so how would you compare, or Chrono asks, how would you compare the sound of the Apos Rock Lobster to the Dunu Titan S2? I understand that it's been a while since the Titan S, sorry, not Titan S2, was on the market, and that it's not easy to remember the sound. Okay, so the Titan S and the Titan S2, Titan S is definitely more mid-forward, does not have near the bass presence as the Rock Lobster. And the Titan S has a little bit more presence up top, if I remember correctly. It's a little bit more sparkly, a little bit more energetic. The Titan S2 has a little bit more bass than the original, but not as much as the Rock Lobster. It's still very mid forward, and it is a little tamer in the uppers, if I remember correctly, than the original, but not quite as tame as the Rock Lobster. So I would say the Rock Lobster is more fun leading than both of those. Both of those tend to be a little bit more stage monitorish. They definitely have that mid-forward presentation. And when it comes to tone and timbre, for acoustical instruments, like especially like brass instruments, strings, woodwinds, things that are more like in orchestras or in jazz, the Titan S2 may be a little bit more natural with its tone and timbre. But when it comes to like electrical instruments, things that are more used in bands for rock and things like that, the Rock Lobster does better with tone and timbre. So they're both good, but they definitely lean way different in its presentation. But I would, in that price point, for me, I tend to go more fun sounding. I'm not really looking normally for a neutral IEM stage monitor in that price point. So I would probably lean for Rock Lobster just because it's more fun and engaging sounding. But the Titan S2 and S would be a little bit more of all around. You battle this to all the different genres, whereas the Rock Lobster is predominantly more for the rock. It can do the other genres, but it's just not as competent, if that makes sense. All right, let's see here. Gee, seems like a nice IM. Don't know how it will stand up with others in the same price. Well, it depends on the genre of music. Like, so if you are specifically looking for a IEM that is more focused on rock, especially, like oldies, classic rock, 90s type of stuff, and some of the more modern stuff, Rock Lobster would definitely be the choice. But if you're looking for more of an all-arounder, or if you listen to a lot more of jazz, classical music, maybe a lot of acoustical type of music, that type of thing, the Rock Lobster can do it, but there are better options when it comes to the price point as far as more all-rounders. So the Rock Lobster is a niche product, but I think it's a niche product that's going to fit a lot of people's preferences, because a lot of us, even if we're not, full blown, you know, metalheads, we enjoy some rock music of some sort, and so Rock Lobster will fit those needs. Let's see. Rico Mix says the red looks kind of cheap. It's I would say the red is about as cheap as everything else in its price point. You're not really getting a high dollar metal shell here, but for the majority of things that are in the $60 price point, they all are kind of like that. I've definitely felt worse plastic in similar price point. I felt a little bit better, maybe, but to me, it's better built than the Hades. To me, the Hades feels cheaper. So, um, I wouldn't say it's anything different than the normal. If you want a super nice build, you're going to have to pay for it. All right, let's see. Guy, how would you compare it to Zero Red? Okay, so it's been a long time since I heard the Zero Red. But if I remember correctly, the Zero Red is a little bit more neutral leaning. It still has the bass, especially if you use the impedance adapter. When you use the impedance adapter, the or not, excuse me, the Zero Red becomes a little bit more bloated. It's not quite as clean. The Rock Lobster stays a little bit more clean in its bass. Even I think they're pretty equal in that regard. When it comes to details and resolution, the Zero Red may have a little bit better detail retrieval. Resolution wise, I would give it to Rock Lobster. I found that the Zero Red was just a little bit harsh and grainy and gritty at times. Soundstage wise, the Rock Lobster was a little bit wider sounding, in my opinion. That's kind of going off of memory. All right, so let's see. Brano, you're welcome. Rico, maybe it's just cheap on camera. Yeah, I mean, cameras do a few weird things with colors. So to me, it doesn't seem that cheap. I definitely have felt things that have worse feeling, but I get where you're coming from on that. Good question so far. Anything else? If you have any other questions that don't involve Rock Lobster, we can answer those as well. If you have other questions about how it compares, feel free to ask. You want to talk about other stuff? I'm open. As long as it's audio related, coffee related, tea related. We can do sports if you want. All right, as usual, I'm going to put some stuff away here. All right, so okay, so thanks a lot in the target for this. I am lots of Black Sabbath, a Budgie, Cream, and so much. Hey, these will be amazing for that. I literally listened to Black Sabbath for about 3 hours last night, just jamming out. I just kept listening to it. Old stuff with Ozzy, some of their newer stuff, and I just really had an enjoyable time just listening to Sabbath last night. It was very fun. Cream also sounds really good on the Rock Lobster. Excuse me one moment. So I knew there was a reason why I kept the Hades around, even though I've never listened to them since I reviewed it. And when the Rock Lobster came in, I was like, I knew there was a reason why the Hades stuck around, and that was it, to compare. And I was really surprised at how much the Rock Lobster just absolutely destroyed the Hades. And it just amazed me at how much difference there is, how much significantly better. Sorry, my box is covering my screen right now. I can't read comments. I'll get to them in a moment. All right, so but you know, one thing I just noticed and completely forgot about, the Hades has a high res sticker. They gotta sound good. Nah. All right, anyways. All right, so check those over there. All right, let's get back to some questions here. Let's see, Brano. I had high hopes for the Fosse GR70. I thought that for 200 banknotes it would be a decent, well, burning the entrance into the world of Tubes Out. I watched everything I could watch and hear on. Yeah, I mean, the GR70, it's not a bad device. It's just not a complete device, you know. And I found that you had some good about it, but overall, I just preferred other tube amps in similar price points. And you know, here the thing with Fosse Audio is I like Fosse Audio for the most part. I appreciate their price points. I appreciate that they take chances. I appreciate that they give the abilities to, you know, tweak their sound with op amps and that type of stuff and open up their devices. But you'll notice back here, there's not any Fosse Audio products as a reference. And that's not to say Fosse Audio products aren't good. It's just to say they're not exceptional. They're not reference quality. And you know, I enjoy them. I use them every now and then. I get them out to do comparisons, you know, when called, when necessary. But they don't take that step to replace any of the stuff back here that I trust. And you know, there's a lot of things that come in for review that are that way, but Fosse just hasn't gotten that step yet. All right, let's see. Let's see. I've got an extra QDC and TFC IEM cable from when I first started in the hobby. What are the IEMs you recommend with those connectors? Also, QDC connector. I'll be blunt. I hate that connector. So usually any IEM that has the QDC connector, I'm replacing the cable. I don't care if if it has a projector, you know, I'm going to use a regular 2-pin, just even if it makes the stem a little longer. I don't care. I hate the QDC. It's not comfortable on my ears. TFZ IEM cable. I'm not sure what that means, the TFC. Is that do they have QDC on them? As far as an IEM with that connector, you can use that connector with pretty much anything. Well, QDC you can't, but I don't have anything specific that would go with those cables, to be honest. All right, so Terry, the price on the Rock Lobster is $60. And if you go to the Apos link, which is in the description, that's not an affiliate link, that's just a link. Same thing with Amazon. You can choose between 3.5, 4.4. Apos has a couple bundles that you can get it with also, which will kind of jack up the price. I don't think it really goes over $100 if I remember correctly. So Rick, are you trying to match an IEM with a specific cable, or are you just looking for another IEM? I'm sorry, I'm kind of not understand what you're asking for there. You have a bunch of cables that are just sitting around. Okay. So do I. Let's see. Did you compare it with the Gremlin? Or try it with the Gremlin? Did I try the Rock Lobster with the Gremlin? I don't have the Gremlin anymore. That was a loan, which was way before I had the Rock Lobster. Let's see. Okay, so Brano, I still have to say that I'm still interested in tube sound. Can you give me a recommendation for a tube amp, one that would be reasonably priced for entering the world of audio? Yeah, so the one that's sitting right here. Hang on. This one, the X Duo TA26S. This would be my recommendation for anybody that wants to get into tubes. Heavy, but it has that tube sound. It's a little bit more expensive than the GR70, but to me, it has that tubey experience. Plus, it's easier to replace the tubes or swap the tubes. And it doesn't work as well with IEMs as the GR70, but it does work better with headphones. It has more power. To me, it's just a true amplifier tube amp versus the GR70. Now, if you really want tone controls and stuff, GR70 will work. But to me, the TA26S is a better amplifier. Other amps that you could use that are tubes, you could use this one over here, which is the Tor Audio Roger, but you're looking at about triple the cost. All right, so Rickomick, I'm trying to make use of the QDC TFC cables. Totally understand. I haven't heard the Blonde Z300. There are several others. I mean, if you really want to spend money on IEMs and cable, I would say you just have to kind of go through and do a search for IEMs that interest you and see what connectors they have. I'm sorry, I really don't have any recommendation for that. And it's not like when I get asked to review a product, oh, that has QDC, no thanks. But to me, cables aren't, how do I say this? When I'm looking for an IEM, I'm not looking for a cable to pair it with, or to use it with. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of at a loss. I don't really know what to. because I honestly couldn't tell you of all of these IEMs that I have laying around and all the IEMs over there. I have hundreds of IEMs in house. I can't just think off the top of my head that one has this type of cable. I would have to open up each one and look. And it's not, I don't document that. Sorry, I've never looked at an IEM in that, purchase in that way. So if anybody else knows, maybe they can help out. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, things like that? Oh, I'm sure Paul will be around. He'll probably watch if he's not already live watching, he's going to ask. So we need to go through the review schedule again. You're welcome. All right. So most of you already know what's on this list, but we'll go through it again. I'm going to do things a little bit different this time. I'm going to mention things that I have already started into the review process and that will be coming up for review. Of course, we're going to continue to do the poll to see which one you guys want next, but I'll mention the ones that have kind of started the listening process and are somewhat better or more ready for a review. And then I'll mention the ones that are brand new. All right, so kind of ready for a review already is the Pula Audio Unicron. Not ready are the Moondrop Land 2 pop and reference variants. NF Acuse NM25 arrived this week. The CCZ CZ10 Tiangong, I don't know how to pronounce it. That one is not ready for review. The KB Ear Turbillion Pro, that one just arrived as well. The Twistora D minor, that one also is not ready for review. It just arrived yesterday. The Sivga Nightingale Pro, that one just arrived this week. The Kiwi Ear Z reviews Serene. I haven't had time to listen to it yet. The FIO JT3 and JT7. I haven't had time to listen to those yet either. SMSL R1 is ready to do a review. The Venture Electronics Galvatron, that is ready to do a review. The Nietzschecheck Octave, that one's also ready for a review. The Cayenne RU3, that one is not ready for a review. Questal Sigma, also not ready for review. Effect Audio Code 24 and Code 23 Mark II cables, those are ready for review. And that's it for the most part of things in for review. So we will put a poll together of things that are ready for review, and you guys can vote as a community as to which ones you would like to see next. Yes, the Sigma Nightingale Pro definitely will be interesting. It's a unique looking IEM. Let me grab a couple things, and like last week, we'll do a unboxing for you. Tight squeeze. All right, so first up, we'll have the Twistora D minor. I'm gonna have to have my wife listen to these because she's the musician in the house. She'll have to tell me if they're in D minor or not. All right, so anyways, take that sleeve off. You get a gray box. Interesting design here. I've never heard a Twistora product before, even tips, so not exactly sure how they'll sound. Extremely small. Cable underneath, which is interesting. Wow, yeah, these are really, really small. It's interesting. You have a 2-pin there, and then you have, looks like bass ports. Kind of cool looking. Oh, yay. We got filters. My favorite. All right. Let's see what else you get. Okay, so you get paperwork. You want those weird squeezy leather. Whoop, there's something in it. Leather pouch. Oh, they gave you a dongle. Cool. Okay. And then you get tips. Wonder why they don't have any up here. Interesting. All right, so that's the Twistura D minor. Get all this put back. I'm not sure how much these go for. I think they're fairly cheap. All right, next. I know these are real cheap. I think these are like 20 bucks. CCZ CZ10 Tian Gong as one dynamic 4BA. Oh, sorry, box. And then you get this. Whoop, paperwork. Flips open. Nothing too special. This must be a look, because a lot of IEMs lately have had like the glass on the faceplate. These are kind of heavy. They do feel metal. 2-pin. There you go. There's a QDC for you. All right, so probably going to be the standard CCZ cable. Yep. So nothing too special here. You're just going to have a white cable with that QDC. I'm going to open it. And then it looks like silicone. And so you get silicone and foam. So your pretty standard things that you get with CCZ. Nothing too special. I mean, you shouldn't really expect too much from the really budget-friendly CCZ $20, $30, however how much these are. All right. NF Acoustics, formerly known NF Acoustics. Interesting box. This is the upgrade to the NM23. So this is the NM25. It's going to open up the same way. So you have your branding on it, and it flips open. Of course, Dave opens it weird. I have opened this one before. As you can see, they're already out of the box. They include tips. As you can see, I already have the small ones. These are the MS24 tip, which I actually like the MS24 tip quite a bit. If you remove the paperwork, there's a carrying case. This is a nice little carrying case. I like the carrying cases from NF Acoustics. They do a good job of being small. Not leather, it's like this fabric type of feel. I like that. You get a 1/4-inch adapter, and then you get the same cable that you got with the NM23, which it's an okay cable. It did tend to tangle a little bit, and it also has your QDC connector. Metal. Very small, though. These are nice and lightweight, actually, for being metal. They seem to be a little bit smaller than the NM23. Now I'm going to be finding all the different IEMs with QDC cables, and I'm going to be scarred for life. All right. One thing about NF Acoustics, they've always done a really good job with their unboxings and presentation. If I can get it back in here. There we go. All right, so next up we have the KB Ear Tourbillon Pro. I think this is like $100, which is fairly expensive for KB Ear. And you get your standard black box, more paperwork. Nice big leather case, which is nice, circular. Whoops. Cleaning cloth. Cleaning tool. Wow, I am tired. I haven't woke up yet today. You get, they look like triclarian tips. Those are nice. And then, not sure what that tip is. There you go. There's the cleaning cloth. And then you get cable, 2-pin. Doesn't look like it's too bad of a cable. Doesn't look like it has swappable terminations though. That's kind of a bummer. All right, and then you get the metal shell, but look, you get that glass faceplate again. I do like this. Of course, Tourbillon is known for watches, you know, being in watches. So you kind of get the gear shape, gears and the faceplate. That's kind of cool looking. Somewhere in my watch collection, I have a Tourbillon. All right, so that'd be interesting to hear. I think this one has, is it only a dynamic? I think. Yeah, it's a 10mm dynamic. And then the Nightingale. So you have the Civga Nightingale Pro. Slide off the top. Get a little paperwork. And then you get that. So these are cool because they are wood faceplates. I'm not sure how much the Nightingale Pro is going to go for. 2-pin. No, wait. That might, well, okay. And then a big carrying case with that brown weird color for that Civga is known for. Nice cable. Kind of thick. You do have that spring thing that Civga puts on all their cables, which is nice. That proprietary kind of rounded ear hook thing, which is kind of annoying. And then a carrying case of tips. So you get, they're both wide bore actually. So you get, the black ones are kind of like JVC spiral dots. Maybe not quite as thick as those, but they kind of have that look. Divinus velvet, you know, type of thing. And then the white ones are a little bit thinner and a little taller. But they're both wide bore. That's interesting that they're both wide bore. What is the driver configuration of the Nightingale? Is that a dynamic only also? So anyways, there you go. There's the unboxing of the 4 newest things that have come in. Crucial. I'm going to let Apos worry about that. Yeah, if they aren't a Chinese brand, they may owe the B-52 some royalties. That's not for me to worry about. Rock Lobster, Crucial is at the very beginning of the video. This is the reviews at the beginning. I think it started about 4 minutes in, after several people showed up. So if you want more of the Rock Lobster info, go to the front of it, or you can wait for it to post. I have just started answering questions and doing other things on live stream. So all right. Seeing the Civga, you have a top 3 player. Oh, so the Nightingale Pro is a planar? Didn't know that. Shows you how much I do like research and remember. I get offered. You're right. It does have a 14.5 millimeter planar. Okay. I get offered so many things, and so when a product gets introduced to me, like they reach out to me via most of it comes through email. A couple companies reach out to me on X / aka Twitter, Instagram. I get a few offers, but most of it comes through email. And a couple come through on Discord as well. But the majority of it's email. When they go, hey, are you interested in reviewing this? We have a new product. Blah blah blah. They'll usually send a link, and I'll look at it and then decide. At that point, I'm like, oh, a new planar from Civga, or oh, a dynamic 4BA, whatever, from so and so, and then after emails come back and forth, a couple of them, and it's decided, here's how long it'll take to review. Here's what my review my review schedule looks like. It's going to be, X amount of time, blah, blah, blah. Then they're like, we'll ship it to you. And by that time, it's out of mind. I may recall the name of it. I may recall that, Civia was sending me something or some, whatever. But by that time, I have moved on. I'm busy with all sorts of other things in life. And maybe I get a notification a day or two or a week later saying, hey, it's shipped. And the majority of stuff, once I get that tracking info, takes at least 7 to 10 or longer days to arrive, business days to arrive. And so I've completely forgotten. By this time, it's been a month, for the most part. And so when it arrives, I'll be like, oh, hey, I remember talking about this one, or it finally showed up. And I don't even normally listen to them immediately. Now, if it's something that I'm really expecting, and the manufacturer has maybe sent me a few things, or the vendor has sent me a few things saying, can you get this out? We have this works, we agreed to this, and this. Did you receive it? Blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's more fresh in my mind. And then if I'm wanting to get the review done immediately because of, some agreement that I made, I might listen to it immediately. But for the most part, they just kind of sit. And so, as you just saw, I don't always remember what it is or isn't. I consistently have 20 to 30 things in for a review at a time. Normally I have somewhere between 8 to 10 IEMs, normally about 4 or 5 headphones, and about 10 things that are source products, DACs, amps, and dongles. So normally it's a pretty busy office back here, trying to keep everything on schedule. And unfortunately, some things I lose track of, which is why I have this little just list of things that are in for review. It doesn't, I don't necessarily have it. This is this came first, so this is getting reviewed first, type of thing. I prefer it to be, this is what the community wants. This is what my viewers are wanting. This interests me, or I made an agreement to do it. It's not first come, first serve. I don't try to let things linger forever, but unfortunately some things have mistakenly been ignored unintentionally. But for the majority of things, I try to move it along fairly quickly. But as you all know, my review process is pretty extensive, so that's why things take a while. Okay, so Brano, what planar IEM is nice in your opinion? Nice. There's plenty of them. So I like the LeSure SO8. I like the Tin Hi-Fi P1 Max. I like the LeSure S12. The 7 Hertz Timeless and the Timeless 2 are also very good. I mean, there's plenty of them out there when it comes to planars. I recommend going through my tier list and seeing, what planars are on there and how I graded them. Do keep in mind my ranking grade is totally different than anybody else that does ranking grades. So my ranking grade is based on the overall performance and just experience that I had. Did I find it comfortable? Did I enjoy it? Do I like the looks of it? Was it something that I jived with? Then it's also based on how it performs sonically, and do I think that it's a good product? So the review, the ranking grade is based on all of those factors, not just on one in particular. But my ranking grades are this. So if you see something, don't assume that it's the same as what other reviewers use their grade as. So A equals awful, B equals bad, C equals capable, D equals delicious, E equals excellent, and F equals flawless. And then there's pluses and minuses. So think of it as getting an A minus or an A plus or an A on a grade. A minus is the worst of the worst. A plus is, this is pretty bad, but it's not as, it's pretty awful, but it's not in the category of being bad. It's just awful. Things like that. All right. Got about 20 more minutes here for questions and answers. And if you just joined us, if you just swung in and was like, oh, he's not talking about the Rock Lobster. The Rock Lobster has been reviewed on this live stream. It's at the beginning of the live stream. So scroll backwards if you want, or you can wait until it posts and rewatch that part. It starts roughly in about the 3 to 4 minute mark of the live stream. I appreciate everybody coming by and talking audio. watching the review of the Rock Lobster and asking questions and comments. Appreciate it. Thank you for all of you. It's much appreciated for sharing your Saturday morning or evening if you're, whatever part of the world you are. Do greatly appreciate it. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, desires, suggestions? Anything else? If not, I don't want to hold you all up for your Saturday plans. It's 2 a.m. in Australia. I have to go to bed. Well, I understand that. Have a good night. Sleep well. Thank you for joining us at 2 a.m. in the morning. Wow. It's only 10:10 here in Indiana in the United States. So you're 14 hours ahead. That's crazy. $14. That's craziness. All right. So if nobody else has any questions or comments, I'm going to, oh, wait, never mind. All right. So Bruno, I haven't found a single driver IEM that can provide what a multi-driver like the CTM 320. Just my opinion. CTM 320 I have not heard in a very long time. I heard it at an audio show. But CTM is a very good company. I really enjoy the DaVinci 10. So I can understand to a degree where you're coming from when it comes to multi-drivers and singles. There's a difference to a degree in them. So, it kind of depends on crossovers and, the abilities, of the driver itself. And a lot of it comes down to the implementation and the tuning of that driver. Also of how the nozzle works and, things like that. So there's a lot of variables that go into it. I wouldn't say that all single dynamics or single BA aren't as good as multiples, but because there are some really good competent single driver IEMs out there. I think what it really comes down to is the price point that they're in and the quality of the driver and how it's implemented and tuned. Because there are some really expensive single dynamic IEMs that are phenomenal. There's also some that aren't so good. So, and there's some cheapy ones also that don't compete. So I get your point, but I wouldn't say that that's always the case. But yeah, I would say multi-driver definitely brings a little different element to the sound and enhances it a little bit more. But if you think about it, what we hear in the world while we're out and about is single driver. I mean, we only have ears. So it's not like we have multi-drivers in our ears unless you have some sort of artificial ears going on. That's a good point, though. And I can see where you're coming from, for sure. Any other thoughts, comments, concerns, responses, maybe on your experience? Has anybody heard the Rock Lobster? It's been out for a little bit. It's back in stock. Has anybody heard any of the other products that I have upcoming for a review, or that I reviewed recently? Multiple sources, but reception, which is our ears, is single. Just your opinion. Yeah, see where you're coming from there. So I haven't done this in a while. I thought I might give you guys a quick tour of what's going on behind me, just to talk about quickly, like what things I have on my desk. A lot of this hasn't changed in a while, but maybe some of you haven't really known what it is, and I don't always talk about it in video. So let me get this out of the way. All right, so back here on my desk is my review type of stuff that I use when I'm reviewing. This is my reference gear. So this little device right here with the brass knob, that's a Burson Playmate 3. Down below it is an SMSL Raw DAC 1. Up here is the Aune N7. This little gray one with the red knob, this is the X Duo XA02. Down below it is the FIO K9 AKM. Next to it here is the Mytek Liberty THX HPA, and also the Liberty DAC 2. Down below, it's really hard to see. Down here is the drop THX 1 linear, and then next to it, which is hidden right now, is the drop SMSL HO150X. Off camera, well, actually it's not off camera. Right here is the FIO K19, and then down below it here is the Stax SRM, which I haven't used in a while. I need to break out my electrostats. Over here off camera is a Shit Audio Vidar speaker power amp, and then the X Duo TA26S, which I just showed earlier. And then I have the Tor Audio Roger tube amp as well. Speakers right now are the Wharfdale D310s. Try to get out of the way without knocking a bunch of stuff over. The computer that I use is actually a laptop. I use a laptop MSI, an MSI laptop there. Again, still tired. An MSI laptop, it's a Creator 17. And then I have a external hard drive that I only have music put on, that I save and downloaded all my music files. And I run all of that with Audiophile Studio. Then other sources that I have the SMSL DS20, the Muse Hi-Fi M6 Double, the Death and Way clarinet, and a DAP of choice is the HBB R5 Gen 2. Headphone wise, you can kind of see them a little bit. They're all sprinkled all throughout. We have, I'll just point out a few of them. Audeze LCD 2 closed, the Audio-Technica R50X, the R70X is over here. We have the Austrian Audio Hi-X 60s, which are right here. And then the Mr. Speaker's Ether C, those are the originals. The Moondrop Para, Hi-Fi Man Aria Stealth, Sennheiser Drop HD 8XX, and a bunch of other ones. Move around. And then all behind here, we have the Sennheiser HD 580 Precision, the Sennheiser HD 660 S2, the HD 600, and the 280 Pros, Sennheiser 280 Pro, and then IEMs, which I'm not going to get out a bunch of them, but we have Westone Mach 60, the Tantrum Origin, Thea Audio Oracle Mark II, the Soft Ears RSV Mark II, various others. So that's kind of a quick tour of what reference gear that I use. There is other stuff, but I'm not going to mention every single little thing and bore you all to death. Okay, so Brano, I hope that we will be seeing the headphone on D1 on your desk. That means we will be hearing your opinion. If a D1's provided for a review, that would be awesome. I haven't been offered one yet. Funds are quite low, so not sure if I'd be able to purchase one. So if anybody has one that they're willing to lend for a while, be greatly appreciated. I don't want to beg for money. I don't want to beg for you to use any of the affiliate links or anything like that, or to donate money or anything like that. I'm not a beggar. If you choose to support the channel in some way, be greatly appreciated. But I'm not going to beg for it. But I am going to mention this. This year has been extremely difficult for the channel, and when it comes to support, it's been very low. It's been the lowest it's been in several years. And also some of the driving force of it is just the algorithm from YouTube has changed, which has hurt a lot of my viewership. Videos aren't being watched like they used to be, which drives monetization. Lost a lot of support on both Patreon and YouTube memberships, and this one-time gifts hasn't come in. And again, I'm not begging for that. It's your choice if you want to give that, and it'd be greatly appreciated, which is why I don't talk about this often. I'm just telling you right now, when my monetization amount that I was receiving monthly from YouTube is a third of what it was last year, my funding has really, really been cut when it comes to being able to purchase products to review. And the way that the world's economy has gone, and the price increases of everything in general, that has hurt my personal funding as well. So I just don't have the funds to be able to go and purchase things like I used to. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now we got about 5 more minutes. If you have any final thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, ideas, suggestions, critiques. So getting back to some of the gear that's back behind me, I was thinking about this the other day. I don't change gear often, and I do have a lot of source gear and a lot of IEMs that come in, headphones, kind of. And, I have reference gear for a reason. It's a reference gear. It's my benchmark, and it's what I expect things to sound like and to compare. And I'm not afraid, or unwilling to swap something out. I don't have a bias towards these headphones or these IEMs or this DAC or amp. And I'm using it as a comparison. And so if something comes in that deserves to be on this desk, like the Rock Lobsters are going to be put in as far as a reference IEM, I'm willing to put it there. But a lot of times things just don't come in and they just don't meet up. And some of it is loaned, so obviously I can't keep it. But there's, if it deserves it, it's going to go up there. It's going to replace something, and I'll talk about that. But there's a lot of things that I've reviewed that just aren't to that point of being able to replace, or to stick around. And unfortunately, there's a lot of content creators, and audio reviewers that constantly are flipping gear or changing gear. And if you pay attention, the gear that they use is gear that they're currently reviewing. They don't really have a set reference point. They're using gear that they currently are getting in. That's their reference gear. So as their reference gear rotates, or as their review gear rotates, so does their quote unquote reference gear. And that's, in my opinion, not good. That you need to have consistency. You need to understand the product. And if you receive, let's say you receive a DAC amp for a review, you're learning that DAC amp, but yet you're going to use that while reviewing other products. How are you going to know exactly how something sounds when you don't even understand how your DAC amp sounds, because you're still learning it? You need to have consistency, which is why I have gear back here that I truly trust. I know how it sounds. And so when I stick other things into it, I can hear the differences. That's just my opinion. Henrik, have you tried a WIM Ultra? I have not. I don't do a lot of streaming either. Most of my stuff is just straight up USB from my laptop. I don't do a lot of streaming, whether it be Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. It's just not really my thing. And then I don't have a whole lot of other setups in my house that I need to stream to. So it's pretty much all my listening gets done right here. I'm not really a streamer. Mark III has been discontinued. That's interesting. Did not know that the Oracle Mark III was discontinued. I like mine. It's sitting there. But is it Mark IV in the way? I haven't heard. I haven't heard about it. I did not know that the Mark III had been discontinued. Unfortunately, I don't get a lot of news from Linsol anymore. I haven't really received very much product directly from Linsol. Couple of the manufacturers that are part of the Linsol family have reached out to me directly, Kiwi Ear specifically, but Linsol, I'm not really involved with them anymore as a reviewer. I don't know why. Well, kind of maybe have a guess, but they don't send me a lot of stuff, and they don't really communicate with me very often. We're cordial to each other when we do talk, but it's just I'm not getting a lot from that side. Hi-Fi Go, Keep Hi-Fi, Shenzhen Audio, are more directly in communication with me as far as vendors and sending me stuff. But I've gotten a lot more direct information, and direct contact from manufacturers themselves than I have directly from Linsol. Yeah, Brano, I understand that. I'm not going to talk politics. And for sure the world is a different place than it was even a couple of years ago. Sorry that you have to deal with that. I can't imagine the pain, the suffering, and the stress that is involved in your life. I hope it gets resolved soon, and we're praying for you. That's about all I'm going to say as far as that. You're very welcome. I'm going to close up shop now. Thank you for everybody that has come in, asked questions and comments, watch the Apos Rock Lobster review. If you didn't catch the review, once this goes live, go back in and watch the beginning of it. Starts somewhere around the 4-minute mark and goes on for about 25 minutes or so. There's some good questions and comments and comparisons afterwards. So check that out. I again appreciate Apos Audio for providing the Rock Lobster for review. Much appreciated. You all know this by this time. We've done this every single live stream, but check out the links down below. There's all kinds of information regarding how you contact channel, follow channel, support channel. All that kind of stuff is listed down below, along with gear rankings and music recommendations, gear recommendations. All that kind of stuff is listed down below. And lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy. And now comes the ever-present finger in the screen as I turn off. So have yourself a great day. Catch y'all later.